What if I told you the story of Mercedes-Benz, the world's symbol of engineering perfection, didn't begin with luxury, wealth, or power? What if it began with a weak little boy who could barely lift his own school bag? A boy who lived in a cramped home with no father, who watched steam locomotives roar past him and believed, somehow, that he was meant to build something even greater. What if I told you that this boy, and another boy, growing up in another town, would one day change the world forever? Even though they would never meet each other, never shake hands, never even speak? And what if I also told you that the first long-distance car journey in human history was undertaken not by an inventor, not by a mechanic, not by a man at all, but by a woman, a wife, who knew that her husband's dream would die unless she fought for it, alone? This is the true story of how Mercedes-Benz was born. A story of fear. A story of failure. A story of rebellion. A story of genius. And a story that almost never happened. Karlsruhe, Germany, 1840s. A railway worker named Johann Georg Benz married a quiet woman named Josephine. They had a son, Karl Friedrich Benz, born on November 25, 1844. Karl was small, fragile, and easily exhausted. The kind of child doctors whispered about. But adversity came quickly. When Karl was just 2, his father died of pneumonia. From that day on, his mother became his world. Josephine was gentle, but unbreakable. She worked endlessly, sewing, cleaning, giving lessons, anything to keep her only child in school. Each coin she earned went into Karl's education. She sensed something unusual about her son. He wasn't interested in games. He was fascinated by movement. He would stare at railway engines for hours, sketching gears in the dirt, tracing the rhythm of pistons with his fingers, trying to understand why machines behaved like living creatures. Neighbors whispered, "The boy talks to metal." They weren't entirely wrong. At 9, Josephine used her last savings to enroll him into a technical school. By 15, he was studying mechanical engineering at Karlsruhe Polytechnic, one of the youngest students ever admitted. He was brilliant. But brilliance doesn't pay rent. Meanwhile, in the village of Skorndorf, another child was walking a very different path. Gottlieb Wilhelm Daimler, born 1834, grew up around gunsmiths, metalworkers, and engineers. At 13, he was apprenticed to a gunsmith, where he learned precision, exactness, and discipline. But Daimler didn't want to build weapons. He wanted to build motion. He traveled from town to town, studying mechanical engineering, absorbing techniques like a sponge. Everywhere he went, he saw one problem. Steam engines were enormous, slow, and heavy. He dreamed of a small engine, one that could power anything. A bicycle, a carriage, a boat, even an aircraft. People told him it was impossible. But Daimler wasn't just stubborn. He was quietly obsessed. In 1865, he met a young orphan named Wilhelm Maybach, whom he took as his apprentice. Maybach had a gift. While Daimler understood machinery like a soldier, Maybach understood it like a poet. Together, they formed a partnership so powerful it would rival the great inventor duos of history. They didn't know it. But they were building the other half of the Mercedes-Benz legacy. Karl Benz was chasing one dream. A self-moving carriage. Daimler and Maybach were chasing another. A compact, high-speed engine that could fit anywhere. Different dreams. Different paths. Same destiny. They were two halves of a secret equation, waiting for the world to connect them. After graduation, Karl got a job at a mechanical company. But he quickly learned that employment wasn't enough for his imagination. He needed freedom. He wanted his own workshop. So in 1871, he partnered with a carpenter named August Ritter to start an iron foundry and workshop. It failed within months. Ritter was unreliable. The business was collapsing. Karl was drowning in debt. He was losing everything. Until a woman walked into his life. Bertha Ringer was young, confident, and unusually intelligent for a woman of her time. She saw what others didn't see in Karl. A mind trapped inside a cage of financial misery. She believed in him even when he doubted himself. She invested her dowry into his workshop. Her family protested. Her friends whispered. Society criticized. But Bertha didn't care. She trusted Karl's vision. With her support, Karl replaced Ritter and took full control of the workshop. Still, stability was far away. Karl obsessed over creating an engine that could move a vehicle. He worked on it day and night, sometimes forgetting to eat. Failures followed him like shadows. Engine cylinders cracked. Fuel lines leaked. Carburation systems refused to work. The prototypes shook violently and overheated. Investors mocked him. Officials rejected his patents. But Karl refused to stop. Slowly, his engines improved. By 1879, he created his first reliable two-stroke gas engine. It worked, but it wasn't enough. He wanted a vehicle, not just an engine. So he built the world's first four-stroke engine designed specifically to power a car. Then, in 1885, he constructed the machine that would change the world. The Benz patent motor wagon. A three-wheeled, gasoline-powered carriage. No horses. No steam. Just engineering. But there was a problem. No one believed it could travel distances. People were terrified of it. Investors ignored it. Critics laughed. Karl Benz was on the edge of another failure. Until Bertha made a decision that would rewrite history. August 1888. Karlsruhe was quiet at dawn. While Karl slept, Bertha walked into the workshop. She looked at the motor wagon, placed her hand on the wooden frame, and nodded. She woke her two sons. "Get dressed," she whispered. "We're going on a trip." Without telling her husband, without permission from authorities, Bertha rolled the motor wagon out of the workshop, and drove away. It was the first time in human history that someone attempted a long-distance drive. Her destination? Her mother's house in Pforzheim, 106 kilometers away. The motor wagon rattled violently. The engine sputtered. The fuel tank ran dry. Gasoline at that time wasn't found in petrol stations, because petrol stations didn't exist. So Bertha stopped at a pharmacy. The pharmacist gave her Ligrol, a cleaning solvent. It became the world's first fuel purchase. She restarted the car. More problems followed. The brakes wore down, so she visited a shoemaker who nailed leather onto them, creating the world's first brake pads. A clogged fuel line forced her to use her hairpin as a tool. A broken ignition wire was repaired with her garter. Villagers gathered around the strange machine. Some prayed. Some ran. Some screamed about sorcery. But Bertha kept going. And after hours of struggle, she arrived at her mother's home. The news spread across Germany. People now believed the automobile was real. Overnight, Karl Benz became a sensation. Bertha had done what Karl could not. She proved the invention worked. While Karl Benz was fighting public doubt, Daimler and Maybach were fighting legal trouble. Their workshop was filled with strange machines, midnight noises, and clouds of smoke. Neighbors suspected criminal activity. Police raided the workshop, convinced Daimler was counterfeiting money. What they found instead were the parts of the world's first high-speed internal combustion engine. By 1883, Daimler patented the first fast-running engine. In 1885, they built the Reitwagen, the first gasoline-powered motorcycle. 2 years later, they installed engines in boats and carriages. Industrialists were slow to understand the significance. But Daimler didn't want acknowledgement. He wanted perfection. In 1889, Daimler and Maybach built the first practical four-stroke V-engine. It was light, powerful, and far superior to anything Benz had created. Their engine would soon power the world's first modern car. By the 1890s, Karl Benz was manufacturing automobiles. Slow, three-wheeled, and not very powerful. But functional. Daimler, meanwhile, was supplying engines to companies across Europe. One man saw their potential more than anyone else. Emil Jelinek. An Austrian businessman, diplomat, and racing enthusiast. Jelinek loved speed. He loved innovation. And he loved winning. He approached Daimler with an impossible request. "I want a new kind of car. Faster. Stronger. Safer. More elegant. Build it, and name it after my daughter." Her name was Mercedes. Daimler and Maybach got to work. In 1901, they unveiled the Mercedes 35 HP. It was a masterpiece. Low center of gravity. Long wheelbase. Powerful engine. Revolutionary stability. It didn't just outperform other cars. It made everything else look prehistoric. Demand exploded. The name Mercedes spread across Europe like wildfire. In 1900, Gottlieb Daimler died unexpectedly. He never lived to see how famous the Mercedes name would become. Karl Benz continued to innovate, building more models and perfecting design. But the world was about to change. World War I destroyed Germany's economy. Factories closed. Businesses collapsed. Both Benz and C and Daimler Motorengesellschaft struggled for survival. Neither could stand alone. So in 1926, they merged. Karl Benz's legacy. Daimler's engines. Maybach's designs. Jelinek's Mercedes name. All became one. The new company was called Daimler-Benz AG. And their cars? Mercedes-Benz. One symbol would define this new union. A star with 3 points. It represented Daimler's dream. Engines for land, SEA, and air. Today, that star shines on millions of vehicles worldwide. But few know it came from a simple postcard Daimler sent his wife, marking his home with a small star and promising, "One day, this star will shine over my work." Meanwhile, in the village of Skorndorf, another child was walking a very different path. Gottlieb Wilhelm Daimler, born 1834, grew up around gunsmiths, metalworkers, and engineers. At 13, he was apprenticed to a gunsmith, where he learned precision, exactness, and discipline. But Daimler didn't want to build weapons. He wanted to build motion. He traveled from town to town, studying mechanical engineering, absorbing techniques like a sponge. Everywhere he went, he saw one problem. Steam engines were enormous, slow, and heavy. He dreamed of a small engine, one that could power anything. A bicycle, a carriage, a boat, even an aircraft. People told him it was impossible. But Daimler wasn't just stubborn. He was quietly obsessed. In 1865, he met a young orphan named Wilhelm Maybach, whom he took as his apprentice. Maybach had a gift. While Daimler understood machinery like a soldier, Maybach understood it like a poet. Together, they formed a partnership so powerful it would rival the great inventor duos of history. They didn't know it. But they were building the other half of the Mercedes-Benz legacy.